manage it.
So you guys have heard a lot of what not to do or to leave things alone, and that is really important. So I want to go through a series of checklists to get you to when you can do something. And that would be, you have a tree, there are limbs that are smaller than a human body size that are possibly broken, and you can reach it standing on the ground. There's a lot of situations where you're going to want to call professional arborists. Anything, again, higher than what you can reach, about 8 feet high. Don't even bother getting on ladders or standing on rocks and all that stuff. It's just dangerous. The other things, having the right tools. Chainsaws are actually really dangerous and unnecessary. If you get a good pruning handsaw, you can actually cut through a branch with much more precision. And by the time you put the fuel and you get the equipment on and all the stuff you're supposed to use for a chainsaw is actually faster. So having the right tool, making sure the conditions are right, no power lines. If you're looking at a branch that you can actually reach, but there's like 100 pounds of debris in it, probably don't want to touch that. There's a lot of weight on that. But we're talking about, you have a branch that has been broken off, and it looks like, well, I should probably prune this. The bark on the tree, there's still some bark on the tree, so it's quite possibly going to live. If the bark has been girdled and stripped off and you weren't able to respond in time, that's probably going to die, unfortunately. And unless that tree is in a spot where humans are walking, and if it's just like nature, you can just leave it, don't even bother with it. But scenario is you have a walkway to the river, and there's a branch about this high, it's broken, but there's bark on the tree, and you'd like, hey, I think I can prune this branch. You have a good handsaw, you went to the store and you got a nice pruning handsaw, not a cheap one. You spend a little bit of money, because these handsaws, these pruning ones, they'll cut on the pull and the push. You'll be surprised how fast it goes in those branches. So, okay, there's all those things. We have the perfect storm of, you guys can finally do something on your own property with your own trees to help yourself out. All right, we're excited about that. Now, this is a handout that I did bring. It's on the table. And this information I'm going to go over here is on the bottom corner of that handout. It talks about the 3-cut method for pruning. So we're going to go over that. So here's your broken branch, broken out over here. And you're saying, okay, I'm going to go ahead and cut this branch off. First thing you want to identify on the tree is where the branch collar is. That's where that kind of bulge comes out before the branch actually narrows down. This is different tissue here. If you cut it too far back, you're going to do what's called a flush cut. If you do a flush cut, you're actually cutting way too far back, and that tree won't seal up properly, and it'll be open to insects and disease. If you cut it too far out and leave what's called a stub cut, it also won't be able to close up that wound properly, open to insects and disease. So I call this the Goldilocks method, because it's got to be just right. So the important thing is you start with your first cut, or your A cut, and that's an undercut. You come out about 6 inches or so from where you're going to do your final cut. You identify the branch collar. You see, okay, that's where it's going to be the final cut. You do about 1/3 to halfway up, and you cut it from underneath. Then you come up with your second cut. You come about 6 inches or more out from there, and you can cut down from the top. The reason why we do this undercut is you got weight on that branch. And when you cut, sometimes it's going to like rip and strip. Instead of stripping the bark all the way down and leaving a giant wound on your tree that you're trying to save, it hits this undercut and it stops. No stripping the bark. So now you've got this branch that's off, the weight is off the tree, off the branch, and you just have this nice little stub, and you again find your branch collar and go, okay, I'm going to cut just outside the branch collar where it starts to even out, and then you do your final cut, and then that tree will go ahead and seal up itself.
If it's an oak.
And thank you, I was just about to say that. And we all know about oak wilt, and you never paint any wounds unless it's an oak, because that's how oak wilt can spread. So any kind of paint will do. Just keep a simple rattle can, and you want to make sure that almost is in your other hand. I mean, you don't work with it in your hand, but that soon after you make that final cut, take out that rattle can and just spray that closed. Now prevent that beetle from possibly getting into the wound and doing an oak wilt infection. So do you guys have any questions about the 3-cut method? All right, I'm excited that you guys can hopefully finally do some stuff on your own property, because I know everyone has been saying leave everything alone, and that is most of the time correct, but this will be that 5% where you finally can do something. And yes, I'm helping my trees.
Just real quick, comment about the oaks. All those wounds on your oaks, don't worry about them. They've been open. After about 72 hours, there's no attractant to the insects that are carrying the disease from Burnett Ranch Road area or anywhere else. So don't try to get up and paint all those old wounds. But if you're creating new ones, like Brad was showing,
I just want to about the new ones. I just want to ask you about if there's some advantage to pruning paint over just rattle can paint. Is it more flexible? Is it something that?
Yeah, through research, this pruning paint isn't really necessary. All it's doing is creating a layer that's stopping the beetle from being attracted to it and getting to the new wound. The pruning paint, I think, was at one point in the history of our culture, there wasn't enough research being done. And, people used to pour cement into old wounds. There's all sorts of weird stuff we did, and we found out that, wait a second, trees actually heal themselves. Yes.
If we have an old oak tree, one of those big oaks, and it has all kinds of debris up against it, it has cypress trees up against it, and some lumber up in the limbs, but can we start removing the debris from around the tree at this point?
Well, I think Rachel talked about that earlier, and I don't know if that was today or yesterday, in a couple of these things.
Starting to blur together.
I mean,